Hey Sopranos fans, welcome to another episode here on Soprano Street, and we are here today to take a look at the extent to which Junior's insecurities affected every aspect of his life, professional and personal. We will examine how it affected his supposed stint as boss, how it may have killed his chances of actually taking the title afterwards, how it destroyed his love life, and how it contributed to his depressing end, as well as a couple of interesting ironies regarding that end. While this video will focus almost entirely on the Soprano series, I do have to take a second to address the many saints, since this trait was further reinforced, and the most obvious example is his having ordered Dickie killed, supposedly for laughing at him, after he fell down. Personally, I think it seems like there was a lot more to it than that. Throughout the movie, we see Johnny Boy and Tony showing favoritism towards Dickie, and even Livia seems very uncharacteristically flirty with Dickie, and then immediately treats Junior's attempt to flirt with her rather contemptuously.
I'm here too, Mr. Handsome.
Looking like $1 million. And not Mexican dollars either.
What are you talking about?
As for Dickie laughing at him for falling, that's not entirely uncommon among guys in general, and especially not among those guys. Tony even tells Melfi about how the entire family, including Livia, was laughing hysterically at Johnny Boy when he fell down the stairs, so ultimately I think Junior is being overly sensitive and insecure, but this is something we knew about Junior since the very beginning of the series. After being told not to do a hit in Artie's restaurant, Junior throws a hissy fit, which prompts Tony to meet with Hesh, who pretty much lays it out point blank.
Your uncle's had a hard-on his whole life. First against your father, his younger brother, because you was a made man before him. And now, you. So sure, he can't stomach you're telling him what to do. Man is driven in toto by his insecurities.
These insecurities are further exacerbated when Junior feels that Tony's crew is running roughshod over his own without consequences, and tensions are brought to a boiling point when Jackie Sr. dies and the issue of succession arises. Now, to be fair, this tension was not due to Junior's insecurities, as tensions were always high during times of transition, but they do factor heavily into Junior's actions immediately after supposedly becoming boss. Being incredibly insecure in his position, which we'll circle back to, he begins a mini reign of terror to show who is boss.
And the party's over. Junior Soprano is the new boss, and he ain't respecting old arrangements.
And he's even goaded by Livia into taxing Hesh, which hadn't been done before. It's during the meeting to resolve the Hesh situation that you really begin to see how Junior's insecurities lead him to be both easily flattered and easily flustered. And everyone knows it, as evidenced by the questions they ask and the manner in which they ask them. They didn't really start off asking Junior questions, they just asked questions around Junior in an attempt to flatter.
You think I got the balls to drive in from New York and tell your uncle how we should run his family? I shouldn't expect to see the Statue of Liberty again if I did that.
This is understandable since he is boss, but even when he tosses the ball back in their court, they still flatter, though it's neither Tony nor Johnny Sack's style.
What are we going to do about this?
Something tells me you have a suggestion.
Oh, Junior, there already flies on you. They're paying fucking rent.
And Junior eats it up. Despite being take-charge guys, Tony and Johnny Sack deal with Junior delicately, ultimately leaving the decision up to him. And even when Junior makes what he believes is the wrong decision, Tony abandons his usually direct approach, instead dancing around the issue gingerly with vague questions as to not upset Junior.
Forget about that. Bottom line, Augustus was a Caesar, and everybody loved him, right? You know why?
But that tone changes when Tony picks up a bit of gossip from Carmela.
Uncle June gives head.
World class.
The old man's whistling to the wheat field?
Don't be disgusting.
Oh, he's a bushman of the Kalahari.
That's why I don't tell you.
Shortly thereafter, at a golf game, Tony gets agitated with Junior, and the questions take on a more personal form and mocking tone.
Where'd you get the beauty scar, tough guy? Eating pussy?
Yeah, that's right.
I thought you were a bacala man, Uncle June. What are you doing eating sushi?
Tony knew how easy it would be to get under Junior's skin, and he was right. Now, to be fair, Tony would have likely given Junior a hard time even if he was legitimately the boss, similar to how Chris did to him, but from Junior's perspective, not only was that toying with his reputation, it's also not how a respected boss is to be treated. Perhaps Junior's insecurities played into these feelings more than it should have, but even a broken clock is right twice a day, and Junior soon finds out that he really isn't the boss when Livia lets him know about all the other capos' moms in Green Grove. This kicks off a mini war for control, which Junior survives, but loses two of his best guys in Mikey Palmise and Chucky Signori, and winds up arrested in the end. While Junior was on house arrest, Richie Aprile was released from prison, and it's during this period with Richie that we really see the extent to which his insecurities affect his mob decisions. Richie was one of the most universally disliked characters in the family, but Junior was very fond of him. Perhaps this was because they both had younger brothers who outshined them, but whatever the reason, Junior feels comfortable with him, and he soon begins pouring on the meaningless compliments.
Put that stuff in the bedroom. Leave the sneakers.
You want to try the one? They got lights on the bottom.
I don't wear that shit. I'm gonna give it to the black kid I let wash my car. Poor prick, he wears a pair that's wrapped with duct tape.
Too good, Junior.
Quick side note, many viewers don't know this, but Junior's helper was actually Nellie, and it looks like he may have picked up a trick or two from Junior. Junior tried to teach Tony, but clearly Tony didn't pay close attention, and with Tony down there throwing headbutts, it's no wonder Carmela can resist the urge to gossip, as Tony clearly doesn't have the makings of a varsity bushman of the Kalahari. But anyways, Richie also manages to convince Junior that he could make a move against Tony, to the point that he actually sends Richie to feel out the Barisi crew's potential support. Albert Barisi balks at the idea, but not because of Junior or Richie. They are in no shape to fight either way because Larry Barisi is in jail. However, Junior doesn't see it this way, and his response to Richie's news shows us his insecurity in two ways. First, the fact that he only tried once and then abandoned the idea when he wasn't really even turned down, just not immediately supported, shows that he doesn't have the persistence that people with confidence would show in similar circumstances. Also, the fact that he immediately blames Richie for not being able to sell it shows that he has already somewhat of a subservient mind frame, and this is reinforced when Junior ponders who they are better off with. His insecurities cause him to abandon the idea of planting his own flag far too early, and he resigns himself to living under Tony's. Shortly thereafter, Richie is killed, Junior's legal case is hurt when he is easily flattered and taken by a pretty undercover cop, surprise, surprise, and he deteriorates mentally until ending up alone in a state care facility, but we'll get back to that in a bit. For now, let's look at how he ended up all alone. Setting aside the strained relationship he had with Tony and the fact that Janice couldn't help even if she wanted to, it was because he had no family of his own, and that's not because he was a mob guy. Sil had a wife who was doing his toenails while he was in a coma, so what was holding Junior back? Again, it was his insecurities. As we discussed earlier, Junior's insecurities about going down on his girlfriend Bobby made it easier for Tony to agitate him, and while it could be argued that was because that association would hurt his reputation, this doesn't seem to be automatically the case.
Every night she jerked me under the fucking table. I'd eat her out when I was down there.
This seems to be more like little kids calling each other names. If they fall off like water off a duck's back, then they won't stay around long. But if it clearly bothers you, that's a guarantee that it will stick. Either way, it ended their relationship, which seemed to be like Junior's best chance. But what about any other possibilities? According to Junior, Fran Felstein, Johnny Boy's old girlfriend, was the reason he never married. He had the ring picked out, but he hesitated because he didn't know whether it was right to put her in the mafia life. Then Johnny Boy showed up looking sharp, and he was left to suffer in silence for years. Fran saw it differently.
He was practically a stalker.
He said he suffered in silence.
Suffered in silence? He used to skulk outside my building, all hours. Weird phone calls. I always had a hunch he told Olivia about me and Johnny.
That sounds like someone who lacks confidence getting beat to the punch by someone with confidence and then stewing on it. Plus, if he really was trying to flirt with Livia and the Many Saints, hey, two birds. Other than that, Junior's last chance seemed to be a widow in the neighborhood named Catherine Romano. But there was a problem.
Does he ever suck on your feet? Bunyan. You know how I feel about feet.
Would you if you had a different girlfriend?
So Junior's not into feet, so what? It's not like Becky Berardi was going to come strutting through that door anyway. What Junior should have done is get Tony to introduce him to Svetlana. That's half the problem solved right there. Except that wasn't really the problem. The problem was Junior's insecurities, particularly in regards to his living situation. He was embarrassed by being under house arrest and too insecure in himself as a person to believe she actually liked him despite his shrinking station in life. But whatever the problem, he pushed her away and ends up alone through the series, which brings us to his stint in the mental health facilities. His time in these facilities can be accurately divided into two parts: before his regularly taking his medicine and after, both of which have their own ironies. For a period, he is arguably as happy as we see him throughout the series. He is secure in his position as what he sees as top dog, and he has a protege that genuinely looks up to him, helping him with his bribes and his rackets. Unfortunately, there was an incident which resulted in Junior resuming his medication, and he lost his edge. This led to his protege attacking him in anger and knocking him off his pedestal with no warning or offer, even one he couldn't understand. From here, he continues to slide downhill mentally and, when he runs out of money, is transferred to a state-run facility. It's here that he is at his lowest point, but ironically, he doesn't have enough of a grasp on his identity as a person to really feel insecure about it. Well, thanks for watching this episode here on Soprano Street. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you at the next score.